If you are an unattractive man, or even if you're just perfectly average looking, honestly, at this point, the thing you need to understand is you might feel like nobody cares about you, but the truth is actually worse than that. People actively love to see you in pain. People love to see an unattractive man just reach the end of his rope and go apeshit in a McDonald's. It's like people don't care about you up until the point that you have a mental breakdown. Then people love to see you crash out. They love to see your mental state deteriorating in real time. There's nothing people love more than rooting against a villain, and people especially love to see a bad guy get what he deserves. But unfortunately, if you are an ugly man in this society, people will automatically view you as a villain. So people will celebrate at your misfortune. People will love to see you suffer, to see you have a public freakout moment. People love to see that. Because if you got that certain look where maybe you're bald or you have bad teeth or you're short, maybe you're not in the best shape, people see these unattractive traits and they automatically associate you with being creepy. They think you're evil. So when anything bad happens to you, people just think you deserve it. Even if they didn't see the lead up to the disaster and they know nothing at all about your life outside of your physical appearance, people will just think, one way or another, you must deserve it because of the way you look. Because people love to cope about the world being fair and everything. They say everything happens for a reason, karma, blah, 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 whatever you want to call it. Most people do have some belief that overall the universe is fair. So when an unattractive man suffers some misfortune, everybody loves to see it. As if being ugly and unwanted and destined to be chronically lonely wasn't bad enough, you also got to deal with the fact that whenever something bad happens to you, not only do you get no sympathy, but people actually rejoice in your suffering. They love to see it. Not necessarily in every context. In a certain context, an ugly man might be viewed with sympathy by the general population, or he might be viewed like a cute little duckling if it's like a fat, asexual, autistic guy showing off his Star Wars collection for some reality TV show, and they have the hopeful background music playing in the back. In that case, an ugly guy might be viewed with a bit of sympathy because they're portraying him like a lost puppy, basically. But the only way for an unattractive man to get any sympathy is if either he's just 100% not threatening at all, like he's just a very woke little doughball tearing up while he talks about how important Captain Marvel was for female representation or some shit like that. Or an unattractive man could be viewed with sympathy if it's politically useful. Like the guy that got shot by ICE a couple months ago, I guarantee if the same guy had been shot by the regular police, right or wrong, nobody would care. But because the whole situation was useful to certain people for socio-political purposes, or useful for people to signal their in-group allegiance to a certain group, now they care. Now they have sympathy. And by the way, I'm not trying to give an opinion on that particular incident and whether it was right or wrong. I never really looked into it, truth be told. I didn't watch the video. Okay, can I just be an uninformed fence sitter? Would that be okay? Just this one time? Because my life is bad enough without having to look into every fucked up situation going on in the world today and forming an opinion on it. Okay, so please just let me sit here in peace. But yeah, even in that situation where the guy was clearly on a certain side, obviously half the country is going to sympathize with him by default just because of the situation. But even then, I guess MSNBC thought the guy was just too ugly for people to sympathize with because they took it upon themselves to run his photo through an AI Chad filter before they talked about him on air. And yes, that really did happen. I'm not making that up. MSNBC used an AI enhanced photo of this man to make him subtly more attractive. So, for those that don't know, MSNBC is a very left leaning news channel here in the United States. They are very much on the same side as this man. So, for them to disgracefully refuse to show his actual unedited photograph, I can only assume it's because they thought he was too ugly for the average person to feel sympathy for. So, yeah, that's what we're up against as unattractive men. We get no sympathy whatsoever unless it's just some special situation where there's an even bigger villain for people to rally against. And even then, they might have to chatify your photo to get you some sympathy. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And it starts early for some of us. What actually got me thinking about this topic was I was thinking about something that happened back when I was in middle school. There was this nerdy kid in my PE class that looked exactly like Carl Wheezer from Jimmy Neutron or like Dexter from Dexter's Lab. You know, he just had that classic nerd phenotype. He was fat, ginger, short, thick glasses, etc. Suffice to say, the kid was not very popular. Well, one day at the beginning of class, when we were all sitting in our designated spots on the gym floor taking attendance, the PE coach started to kind of pick on this kid, which I actually don't think he meant to be cruel about it at first, because he would always pick one or two kids every class period to pick on. And I don't mean he was picking on kids like actually trying to make fun of them. It never really seemed mean-spirited. It was just a little bit of lighthearted banter. Sometimes it would be pretty funny. I think it was just his way of trying to bond with us. So it wasn't anything serious. But this one day, he decided to pick on this Carl Wheezer lookalike. So he asked the kid if he has a girlfriend, and he said no. But I guess the kid had told some other kids that he had a crush on this one popular girl, because when the coach asked him if he had a girlfriend, all these other kids started being like, "He likes Sarah! Ask him about Sarah!" And they were all laughing and everything. So the coach was like, "Oh, so you like Sarah, huh?" And he was trying to ask him, like, what do you like about her? Have you tried talking to her? And he was just asking him questions like that. And you could tell the coach was really getting a kick out of it. But the kid obviously didn't want to talk about it. He was embarrassed. So I don't know if this was just a coincidence or if maybe the coach had secretly sent someone to go get her. But the girl that this kid had a crush on walked into the gym in the middle of our boys' PE class. I think the coach probably did send somebody to go get her because the chances that she just so happened to walk in right after we just got done talking about her, I mean, stranger things have happened. I guess she was an office aide that period, so ostensibly she was just delivering a message to the coach, but who knows? My guess is the coach knew that she didn't have a regular class that period, so he just sent someone to go get her when nobody was paying attention. But either way, when she walked in, we were all doing our stretches, and the girl walked in, and everybody was just going crazy like, "Oh shit, it's Sarah! Look, it's Sarah! Holy shit! Sarah, he likes you! Carl likes you!" And the whole time this is going on, the kid was just sitting on the floor, kind of Indian style, but with his head down. Like he had his head buried in his hands. He was just trying to hide. It's really sad looking back, but of course, as a kid, I was laughing too. I thought it was funny because everyone was laughing and it wasn't me that they were laughing at. So I don't know. I feel bad about it now, about thinking it was funny, but you know, I was just a kid. So the PE coach was laughing. All the kids were laughing. And then the coach told the girl to go talk to the kid. So she walks all the way halfway across the gym to where this kid is sitting there on the floor with his head in his lap. He's clearly just trying to pretend none of this is happening. Like, my man was sitting there trying to astral project to another plane of existence. He was so embarrassed. I don't know if he even realized the girl walked up to him because he was just in a sensory deprivation chamber of his own mind. Just head down, perfectly still. Meanwhile, everybody's laughing. You probably could have heard laughter from outside the gym if you were just walking by. So the girl just stood next to him, looking down at him, smiling, trying to hold back her laughter. Then the coach is like shouting to the kid, trying to get him to look up. Then he tells the girl to tap him on the shoulder. So she did. She taps the kid on the shoulder. And he just didn't move at all. She was trying to get his attention. She was like, hello, hi, are you okay? But he just refused to even look up, which, fair enough. That's probably the best thing he could have done in that situation. Like, obviously, the girl's not going to go out with him. She's just trying to make fun of him one way or another. So eventually, the girl gave up and she walked away, but the kid still had his head down. Then the coach was shouting to him, like, okay, she's gone. You can look up now. So the kid finally looks up, and his face was just completely red, and he had tears running down his face. He was crying from the embarrassment, which I probably would have been too. I feel like most people probably would have been. But he finally looked up, and the girl was still there. Like, she walked away from where the kid was sitting, but she was still in the gym over there standing by the coach. So, of course, when he lifted his head up and everyone could see he was crying, all the kids started just hooting and hollering, like, he's crying, y'all, he's crying. And everybody's dying of laughter. And when the girl saw that he was crying, she did that thing where she was like, "Aww," but, she was kind of laughing at the same time. She clearly wasn't actually concerned about him. And I don't remember exactly what happened after that. I think the coach probably just told everyone to calm down, and the girl went back to wherever she came from, which might have been hell now that I think about it. But yeah, I was just thinking about this memory the other day, and it got me thinking, as a man, or even as a boy, before you've even reached adulthood, if you don't meet some minimum threshold of attractiveness, if you're a below average looking guy, then you just never get the benefit of the doubt. You are guilty until proven innocent. So even if you're the victim, or if you just get into some kind of accident, or you have some random misfortune come your way, it's not just that people don't care. People actively enjoy seeing it. They revel in your misfortune. Like with this kid in my PE class, he didn't do anything wrong. I didn't know him personally. I don't even remember his name, but he seemed to be a very well-behaved kid. I don't think he got into a lot of trouble or anything. As far as I could tell, he was a nice kid, but none of that matters. When he was sitting there getting humiliated in front of his crush, that was hilarious to people. Even though he obviously didn't deserve it, he was innocent. He was an innocent kid. But he looked like a stereotypical Poindexter type. He was the archetypical nerd dweeb. So for him to get embarrassed like that, people just thought it was funny. They thought it was hilarious. Because I guess he just looked like the classic image of a nerd that we've all been trained to laugh at our whole lives through television, movies, just every kind of media, and through real life. And I'm sure the girl probably thought he deserved it just for having a crush on her. Probably made her feel icky or something, so in her mind, he deserved to suffer. That's probably how everyone felt about it. It was just, it's brutal to see. And again, I will admit that I laughed too, okay? I feel bad about it now, but back then I just felt like, well, at least that's not me. At least I'm not that big of a loser, because I still had hope back then. Little did I know how my life would actually turn out, But even with me also being an unattractive male loser, because I was, I could have just as easily been the one in that situation. And I don't think I would have handled it much differently. I probably would have just put my head down and waited for it to end, just like this kid did. But even I felt no sympathy for this kid in the moment. I thought it was funny. So even other ugly men probably will delight in your suffering most of the time. Okay? And that's important. If you are an unattractive man, or even if you're just perfectly average looking, honestly, at this point, the thing you need to understand is you might feel like nobody cares about you, but the truth is actually worse than that. People actively love to see you in pain. People love to see an unattractive man just reach the end of his rope and go apeshit in a McDonald's. It's like people don't care about you up until the point that you have a mental breakdown. Then people love to see you crash out. They love to see your mental state deteriorating in real time. I think part of it is just the sense of how it makes people feel better about their own life in comparison. But it's also because, especially if you just have that right look, like if you're the right kind of ugly, where you look like a stereotypical Bond villain, you're bald or your face is just so asymmetrical, you look like a mutant, people associate you with villainy. People just assume you are a bad guy. So they think it's good when something bad happens to you. They justify it in their mind. They're seeing this ugly guy suffering or this ugly guy in misery, even if they don't know what's going on. They just see an ugly man sitting on the sidewalk crying, looking disheveled. People love it. Whether you notice people reacting when they see that, trust me, people love to see that. They feel better about themselves. They see the guy and they just think, he looks like freaking Jaws from Bond. He deserves it. He deserves whatever bad happened to him. That's the way people justify it in their mind, because I think the initial reaction most people have when they see an ugly man suffering is it brings them joy. They like to see it. It makes them feel better about their own life. And that's like an initial instantaneous reaction. Then after the fact, and this is all happening very quickly, but after the fact, they justify the way they felt. They justify that in their mind by saying, well, that guy's obviously a bad guy. He's obviously a villain. Just look at it. I mean, just look at how in movies, the bad guy is almost always unattractive if it's an unambiguously evil character. They might cast an attractive man to play a villain that's in some moral gray area, perhaps. And obviously, there are exceptions to this. But usually, the antagonist in a movie, if he is unambiguously bad, then he'll usually be bald or fat, or a lot of the times they give him a backstory where he's a burn victim or something like that. So they can make him extra ugly. Look at Immortan Joe from Mad Max Fury Road. He looks like a mutant or something. Or Jaws from the Bond movies. And you could say, well, what about Chris Hemsworth being the bad guy in the Mad Max sequel? But if you think about it, they did pretty much have him wearing a disguise. They gave him this big, bushy, unkempt beard, trying to make him look as ugly as possible while still being able to use him in the movie so they can put Chris Hemsworth up on the movie poster for marketing purposes. But they covered they hid as much of his face as they possibly could behind a big bushy beard. Okay, so they were trying to make him look more ugly. And look at Dune, the recent Dune movies. I can't remember the Denis Villeneuve, or however you say it, Dune movies. I can't remember them that well since they were extremely boring. Truly just terrible movies, very difficult to stay awake when something like that is on the screen. If you like that slop, then I don't know. I mean, I guess you're welcome to your opinion, but holy shit, the Dune movies suck so bad. Some of the worst movies I've ever seen. But anyways, Look at the villain in those movies. He's like a ugly, bald, obese alien. He looks like Brendan Fraser in The Whale if they shaved all the hair off his body. But that's just how society views ugly men. We are seen as the bad guys, regardless of the truth of the situation. People want ugly men to be bad. They want to root against us, and they want to feel justified in rooting against us. So whether it's true or not, most people will just assume that any unattractive man they see is a bad man. They think if you're ugly, then you must be a creep. You must be up to no good. So when something bad happens to you, people say, oh yeah, that guy definitely deserved it. Just look at him. Look at him. He's obviously a creep. I mean, this is really just an extension of the whole concept of the halo effect / phalo effect. If you're good looking, then people will assume good things about you. And if you're ugly, then people will assume bad things about you. It's basically just that meme where the hot guy in the office is like, hey, looking good, Susan. And the lady's like, thanks, Chad. Then the fat guy says the exact same thing to her. And she's like, somebody call HR. You know, it's pretty much just an extension of that. But not only will people just see your actions differently based on your appearance, but people will actually want the best for you if you're good looking. And they will want the worst for you if you're not good looking. And I do want to be clear, I don't think you have to be like dog shit ugly as a man for most people to prey on your downfall. I think if you're even slightly below average these days, then most people legitimately will not want to see you succeed. They will want to see the opposite. They want to see you fail miserably. They want to see you struggle. They want to see you lose your mind. And it really sucks if you think about this in a medical context. I'm sure most healthcare professionals probably are going to try to help you out with your problems if they can, even if you're ugly. But there's no way you're going to get the same level of care as you would if you were good looking. There's just no way. That's not the way that human beings work, okay? Especially with all these young female nurses that, I mean, let's be honest, obviously some of these nurses are a bit loose with their affections, to say the least. Okay, they're absolutely ran through, is what I'm saying. Okay, we all know this about nurses. You know it, I know it, we all know it. Last time I went to the doctor's office, has anyone else noticed that the pants these nurses are wearing these days, I guess you call them scrubs, but they're basically like yoga pants these days. Some of the scrubs these nurses were wearing had me ready to jump out my seat in the waiting room, run back to my car, and get back home as soon as possible so I could scrub one out. You know what I mean? Talking about sheesh, the way these pants were lifting and sculpting and shaping. Literally, it's basically yoga pants. In some cases, I think they're even better at doing what yoga pants do. But yeah, back to the topic at hand. If you are an unattractive man, you probably are going to be receiving suboptimal health care. And some nurses and doctors might even just not want you to get better. I really do believe that. Now, again, I think most of them are going to try to help you because it is their job, and most people are probably afraid to lose their job in this economy. But as an unattractive man, you need to be extra vigilant if you have any health problems, because you're not going to be getting the best care. And some nurses and some doctors might actually just not care if you live or die. Or they'll actually think you deserve to be ill. So you got to be careful, okay? You got to be ready to advocate for yourself. Obviously, it's easier said than done, but it is brutally unfair out here the way that sub-5 men get treated. So you really do have to stay on your P's and Q's whenever you have any health problems, okay? Don't just assume that you are getting the same medical treatment that Chad is getting, okay? I'm serious. Do not make that assumption. You should be assuming you are getting suboptimal health care, and you need to act accordingly and advocate for yourself. So, good luck. I wish there was a silver lining here, but it's like people wonder why looks maxing is getting so popular, taking the world by storm right now. It's like, duh. Okay? Like, most people aren't absolutely retarded. Like, it's very easy to see if you've been living in this world for even like a few years. Because I honestly think people learn this early on in their lives. It's very clear to see if you are unattractive, you are not getting treated very well by people. And people love to see you suffer. Like, I think everybody can easily pick up on that. So, duh, of course, looks maxing is becoming more and more popular because people's standards of what is attractive is getting so inflated with social media and everything. It's like, good luck. Good luck. I'm doing the best I can out here. I hope you guys are too. Stay safe. That's all I got to say. If you made it this far, please check out some of my other videos. I have a lot of videos on this channel. I think if you like this one, you'd like some of my other videos. I also have some secret videos that you can watch for free on my Patreon. You don't have to sign up or anything. You don't have to put in an email. You can just click play and watch the videos. So check that out if that interests you. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.